What's up, marker heads? It's Karen, and today I'm going to be outlining this drawing with colored pencils, and I'm going to show you guys how I like to do it. So I'm going to show you the pencils that I like to use and the pencil I do not recommend using. My preferred pencil is the Prismacolor Verithins. They have very hard leads. It tends to stay put the best and works well with Copics because it's harder for the Copic ink to dissolve the pigments that came out of your pencil. I also do use Prismacolor Scholars, generally because I just have more Scholars than I do Verithins, so if I want a specific color that I don't have in this set that I have, I will go for a Scholar. I do not recommend the Premiers for outlines. They are great for if you're wanting to blend your markers with colored pencil. For outlines, they tend to smear really badly with Copic, so I try to stay away from using these unless I want a soft edge to my outline. I don't recommend these. I would really try to stay closer to something with a harder lead. The Premiers are softer than the Scholars, and they're definitely softer than the Verithins, and that's why they smear. I also recommend you having some erasers. That's very, very important. I have just a regular white eraser, and I have a kneaded eraser, and the white eraser is for cleaning up your sketch typically before you use your colored pencils, because this will erase some of your pencil out, and this is after you've done your pass with your colored pencils, because this will pick up more graphite and then it won't pick up as much of the colored pencil pigment. It still could pick up a little bit, but it's not as bleaching, I guess, as this type of eraser. You're also going to need some pencil sharpeners. I like to use these kind a little bit more than this one, just because when I'm using colored pencils to outline, I sharpen a lot and this thing clogs up really fast. I like to use one of these and just sharpen over a garbage can off to the side, and it just saves me a lot of time. I don't have to unplug a clogged sharpener, so I like to use these. Ideally I'd have an electric sharpener, but I just don't have one of those, so this is what I use. It can be helpful to have a piece of paper to kind of rub the side of your pencil on in case your sharpener doesn't sharpen very evenly, and this way your sharpener or your pencil can be nice and smooth and sharp on all edges without having any weird inconsistencies. It's also a good place to check strokes. I like to use a light stroke and kind of lift the pencil as I'm drawing. The harder you press, the more likely it is for your pencil to snap or chip as you're working, so it's nice to try and work with a light hand. Another thing I will use to sharpen my pencils, again, is my trusty X-Acto knife. I will just, if my tip's getting a little too dull, I'll just really quickly, off to the side, shave it really quick until it's sharp, and then blow that away and continue to work. But that is also a very messy way of working, so it's all up to what you guys have, what tools you have, and what you're willing to use. Now, I did sketch this out and didn't really film that because it takes me ages to do the rough sketch. I'm moving things around and just erasing a lot of stuff. I do need to show you guys how I refine the sketch because that's important to the colored pencil process. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to be looking at the areas that I feel need adjusting and areas that I think I would like to remember an idea that I have, but I don't think that once I get into the drawing itself, I don't think that I'll be able to remember, so I'm going to do little things like that. I'm not going to bring this to a super polished finished sketch because of course I am going to be outlining it and I already have a pretty good idea of how I want it to look, but there are some things that I need to fix, and it's important to be able to get a lot of the excess graphite up off of the picture before using your colored pencils, and that's because the colored pencils will essentially push that graphite down into the paper, and you definitely want to have your sketch cleaned up before you color it with your markers, because the markers will also make the the graphite lines permanent. It will make the colored pencil lines permanent as well, and so you want to make sure that your sketch and your line art are pretty clean before you start adding colored things to your paper. It's important when you're going to do a sketch or an artwork like this with colored outlines to kind of figure out what your lighting's going to be like, what your colors are going to be like, and maybe what the color of your background is going to be like as well. And this way I could pick colored pencils that were going to be darker than the colors I'm using. Otherwise they're not going to show up. If I'm going to be using really dark Copic markers, the outlines aren't going to show unless I use really dark colored pencils. So I need to make sure that my pencils and markers work together to complement each other rather than disappearing. Up here I used the same green that I used on here, but you can hardly see these outlines because the dark background just kind of eats them up. So it's really important to test your materials together before you start working on your finished piece. I just love this part of the process. This is one of my favorite things to do, is all the concept stuff. It's also useful to figure out your lighting, because then you can use warmer versions of the colors you're using over here on the sunny side, I guess, and then over on the cool side you can use cooler versions of that color, or even mix it with blues. And that's something that I'll show you guys in my tutorial, because I feel like it's one of my favorite things to do with the colored pencil outlines, is use variated colors in the outlines themselves. I'm going to start with my green. I'm using Prismacolor Scholar 308 for his outlines. Bulbasaur is going to be colored with a blue-green color, and he's going to be shaded with violet. So I am going to be using other colors in his outline as well. And this is the sunny side. This is where the lighting is going to be coming from, is this side of Bulbasaur. So I'm trying to pay attention to what type of colors will be on this side. This side will have more warm colors, and then the other side will have some cooler colors. I'm not really worrying too much about line weight on this first pass with my lines. I'm just going in and getting the shape in. Down here at the bottom, I wanted to remember there's going to be some grass overlapping Bulbasaur's little legs, so I wanted to make sure I get some blades in there of grass. And I can see that my pencil's starting to get dull, so I'm going to sharpen it. I'm going to be doing a lot of sharpening. I like to keep my pencils really sharp. This is going to happen a lot. You're going to break your pencils. It's fine. Just keep going. A lot of times that happens because the blade in your sharpener was dull, so you just want to switch to another sharpener and see if that'll work better. And you don't really want to sharpen right over your artwork, because sometimes it'll leave flakes of pigment on your paper that you might accidentally rub with your wrists as you're drawing, so it's a good idea to not sharpen right above your artwork. I'm going to continue with this marker in the facial features. I said marker, I meant colored pencil. I'm going to just really be delicate in the facial features. I don't want the outlines in these to be nearly as thick as the outlines on the rest of the character, so I'm going to be a little bit delicate with the facial features. For larger sweeping areas such as this arm, it's definitely something that I'm going to turn my page for, because I will be using a wider stroke with my arm to create this line. It's important to make sure you have enough room to work. There's a lot of stuff on my desk right now and it's getting in the way, so I have to clear off my desk a little bit. But you need to be confident with your lines. I'm going to use my whole arm to do this line, not just my wrist, and it gives it a better sweep. It's a smoother motion. And I am going for a thicker line, so I will be adding some line weight here. I don't want to basically burnish the paper too much here. I want to make sure that this line is not super dark. I'm going to use a bit of a light hand because I am going to come in with some blue colored pencil and add some color variation to that line there. areas like this one where the line breaks, but it's supposed to be a nice smooth arc, you're going to continue to move your arm in that arc, but you can pick up the tip of the pencil as you're moving. I almost said pen. And just keep moving your arm along. And that way it will kind of continue that line even though it breaks in a few places. And it's good to have that line sketched out beforehand. Just it helps a lot to have a guideline. Now I'm adding a little bit of line weight. I'm going to add a little bit of line weight here on the cheek and here where these two lines meet, right here in this little Y or V shape. I'm going to continue thickening that because that would create a bit of a shadow. The thicker lines will correspond with where shadows would be. So on this side the lines will be a bit thicker. For areas where you're definitely planning on blending some colors together, I would recommend starting a little dark and then lifting your pencil like this as you get close to where you're going to blend some new color in, and continue on the other side. I want to make sure I put some purples and blues into this outline as well, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be blending those colors into this area where I don't put as much green on the paper. I'm going to come in with this nice teal color on his body. I'm probably going to add this more in the middle areas, and I'm definitely going to sharpen this, of course, because it's a bit on the dull side. This color, by the way, is Prismacolor Scholar 305, and it makes a nice teal color, almost a bit blue, but it's not quite teal, and I wanted it to be a little closer to green than it is, and I don't have quite the color that goes in between these two, so I wanted to use this marker, color pencil. I'm so used to markers, I'm so used to talking about markers that it's hard for me to even switch into colored pencil explanation mode. But everywhere where I left the green lighter, I'm going to add this teal color in. Now I'm going to come in with Verithin in Violet, and I'm going to blend the violet color in with the green, and this is just to make the really shaded areas dark, and also to bring that violet into the outlines, because there will be a lot of violet in the flowers and in the shading, and so I do want to have some of this color in the outline as well. And in the end, you may not be able to see it really well, but I think that it really does help with the way that the artwork looks if you put a little bit of the colors in your color scheme into your outline. Alright, I'm pretty happy with the way that Bulbasaur looks now. I'm going to start outlining the flowers, and the flowers are going to be more delicate than Bulbasaur. They don't have as much mass as Bulbasaur's body does, so I'm going to be using lighter, more delicate lines. Oh, this pencil needs sharpened. And I'm also going to be thinking about the local color of the flowers themselves. So over here with the lilacs, I'm going to use a purple that's a little more on the pink side, because that's kind of exactly what the color of lilacs are. And because these two colors touch right here, these two outlines touch, I am going to bring a little bit of that color from the lilacs into the color of the outline on Bulbasaur. And it's kind of hard to see because it's so small, but it is a nice little touch. It's a really good way to solidify, I guess, or unify your outlines. If you're going to be using colored outlines, it's a really nice touch to incorporate a lot of colors from the color scheme into each outline. Or maybe not each outline, but into a lot of your outlines. If you're doing something that has a lot of teeny tiny details, it's a really good idea to use a piece of paper to sharpen the ends of your pencils, because you can get a really, really fine point with that method. I don't know if you can really see, but that is one very, very sharp little pencil there. And with this sharp pencil, I can get some really fine details in. After you've got all your flowers in, you can add a little bit more definition to some of them by going around the bottom edge, or the edge that's not in the light, the edge that's in the shadow, and then that will give it just a little bit more three-dimensionality. You can come in with your other colors and add a few more touches here and there with some variation, just final touches. This is something I like to do. You do not have to do this at all. You could just do one color for your outlines, or you could do multiple colors like I like to do. It doesn't really make a huge difference except for stylistic choice. This is definitely not the only way to do this or anything like that, but it is the way that I do, and I really enjoy doing it this way. That's about it for this video. I really appreciate you guys watching. Please let me know if I skipped over something that you would like to see in a little more detail. The only thing I have left to do right now is to go over it with my kneaded eraser and pick up all of the graphite, and that will get rid of the graphite lines, but it will leave most of the colored pencil lines there. And that's pretty much the finishing touch to doing artwork like this, at least for the outlines. Next week I will be doing a tutorial on how I color with Copic markers with pictures that have colored outlines. Just some tips and tricks to keep from smearing the color, and ways to incorporate the colors from the outlines in the colors that you're using on your character. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I really enjoyed making it. It's a lot of fun to do colored outlines. It's one of my favorite things to put in my artwork, and I hope that you guys would like to try it out. If you do, please Instagram me. I'm Art by Karen Haley on Instagram, and I love to see what you guys are making, so please tag me if you try this out, and I will try to feature you in the coloring video if you are so keen to try this out that you get it done before the coloring video. I will definitely try to feature you. And if not, then I'll feature you in a different video instead. But I love to feature my viewers. I think that it's probably one of the most fun ways of seeing that you guys are into what I'm doing, and I really enjoy it. It makes me feel very happy to see that something I've created inspired somebody else to make something. That's my end goal here, is to get you guys to want to make something too. So please, if you do try this out, please tag me on Instagram, and I would love to see your results. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed already, please do. I upload videos every week. I put up videos up on Tuesdays and on Thursdays, and I typically do artwork like this. I am very happy that you guys watched it, and I really appreciate it. Please come back sometime soon.